They say cabins don't move, but this one appears only when you're about to disappear. A night in the woods. I never planned to spend the night in the woods. It was supposed to be a simple road trip, nothing more than empty highways and loud music to clear my head. But somewhere between fading daylight and endless trees, something went wrong. The GPS screen froze. The radio dissolved into static, and the road I was driving on slowly disappeared beneath my headlights. I pulled the car over, my heart pounding, surrounded by tall, silent trees that felt far too close together. The forest was unnaturally still, as if it was watching me. That's when I saw it. A cabin. It stood quietly between the trees, half hidden by thick fog. A single dim light glowed from inside, warm and inviting, like a promise of safety. I remember thinking how strange it was that I hadn't seen it while driving. I should have stayed in the car. I should have turned around. But the forest behind me was already swallowed by darkness, and the silence felt heavier than fear. So I grabbed my flashlight and stepped toward the cabin. With every step, the air grew colder. The ground felt softer, almost breathing beneath my feet. The cabin older the closer I got, its wooden walls dark and cracked, covered in symbols I didn't recognize. I knocked on the door. Nothing. Then, slowly the door creaked open by itself. Inside, the cabin was dimly lit by a fire that burned without sound. The room smelled of old wood and damp earth. There was a table in the center, a single chair pulled back. If someone had just stood up and left. I called out, but my voice felt small, swallowed by the walls. That's when I realized something was terribly wrong. There were no windows. No matter where I looked, the walls were solid. No glass, no view of the forest, just wood and silence. I turned back toward the door, my chest tightening. The forest outside was gone. Where the trees should have been, there was only thick, endless fog. It pressed against the doorway like a living thing. I reached for the handle. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed far longer than it should have. Panic crept into my thoughts as I tried the door again. Locked. I stepped back, my flashlight trembling in my hand. That's when I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, above me. But there was no second floor. Each step sounded deliberate, like something pacing, deciding. The ceiling groaned softly under the weight, and then silence. A whisper filled the room. It spoke my name. I spun around, my breath caught in my throat. No one was there. My mind raced, trying to explain it away. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something in this cabin knew me. A door appeared on the far wall, where there hadn't been one before. It looked older than the rest of the cabin, its surface warped and scarred. The handle was warm to the touch. I didn't want to open it, but the silence behind me felt worse than whatever waited beyond. When the door opened, the space inside was impossible. The room stretched far deeper than the cabin ever could. The walls were lined with photographs, hundreds of them, from floor to ceiling. Every photo showed the same cabin. Different people stood in front of it, smiling, laughing. Some looked relieved, others looked terrified. And then I saw it. In each series of photographs, the people slowly faded. Their faces blurred. Their bodies became transparent until only the cabin remained. My stomach dropped. At the end of the room stood a tall mirror. I stepped closer, my reflection staring back at me. For a moment, it moved exactly as I did. Then, it didn't. My reflection smiled. It raised its hand when mine stayed still. "You don't leave the cabin," it said softly. "The cabin leaves you." The walls began to shake. The photographs tore themselves free, floating through the air like dead leaves. The sound of the forest roared from nowhere, filling my ears. The cabin was collapsing in on itself. I ran. I ran toward the door I came from, my lungs burning, my vision blurring. The floor twisted beneath my feet, the walls bending as if the cabin was alive and angry. I burst through the door and fell forward onto cold earth. The forest surrounded me once again. No cabin, no fog, no light, just trees and silence. I laughed in relief, my hands shaking as I pushed myself up. Then I noticed my fingers. They were fading, slowly becoming transparent, just like the photographs. Behind me, deep in the forest, the faint light flickered on. A cabin stood between the trees, waiting. I understand it now. The cabin doesn't disappear. It moves. It waits for the lost, for the tired, for the ones no one will search for. And if you ever find yourself in the woods at night, and you see a warm light glowing between the trees, don't go inside. Because once you do, the cabin will remain, and you will vanish. If this story kept you awake, then the next one will haunt you even more. Subscribe to Night Narratives 2.0 and never miss the darkness.